dusty road, man alone. His vital signs go on hold.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us on Dead to Rights, the podcast video for readers, authors, and the crime genre. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a new anthology that's coming out in the fall from Carrick Publishing, titled A Grave Diagnosis. And as the title suggests, this will be an anthology of short stories that have the common theme of an illness. So if you would like to submit a story for our consideration for the anthology, please send it to me at carrickpublishing@rogers.com. And you can find submission guidelines for the anthology at our website, www.carrickpublishing.com. Your story must be between 1,500 and 8,000 words, and it must contain a clear crime, as well as some element of illness in the story that is critical to the crime or the solution. So again, you can send that to carrickpublishing@rogers.com. The submission deadline is June 1st, and we'll be back to you as soon as we have a chance to review your story. Thank you very much. Now, today we've got a great show because we've got an interview with Rosemary McCracken, who is the author of the Pat Tierney mystery series. Her titles include Safe Harbor, Blackwater, Raven Lake, and coming to you in September from Carrick Publishing will be Uncharted Waters. So watch for that new book to come out from Rosemary McCracken. Rosemary's going to talk to us about the series as well as about her short stories, so stay with us. But before we bring Rosemary on the line, I have promised to read a public service announcement related to the COVID situation that we're all currently experiencing. COVID-19, better known as coronavirus, has spread throughout the world. There are a few ways to help lower the spread of this respiratory disease. Wash your hands, avoid touching your face, including mouth, nose, and eyes. Cover your coughs and sneezes. Monitor your symptoms and consult with your doctor. Stay home and away from other sick people, except for medical care. Clean and disinfect highly touched surfaces. For more information, please visit the cdc.gov/COVID-19, or in Canada, you can look up our government regulatory agencies. Thank you.
Here.
Can you get down in here and say hello?
Hello, hi.
Hi, Ed. It's good to see you.
How you doing? Good to see you.
This is my husband, Ed Pivovarchik, my first editor.
Excellent, excellent. And Ed is a wonderful editor. If anybody out there is, I don't know if you even want the plug. You're probably so busy, but Ed is a wonderful editor.
I'm going to get back down to work on Rosemary's latest.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Take
Bye.
care. Have a good session. Bye-bye.
And we're going to talk about Rosemary's latest, but first, I know that you're working on a story for A Grave Diagnosis.
I am.
Can you tell me a little bit about that without giving away too much of the plot?
Okay, I can't tell you the title because that will give away a lot. But it is set in Quebec, which I know. I grew up in Montreal. I went to school in Montreal. Left there when I was about 20. So it's set in Montreal. It's set in the year 1968. Nothing to do with any of the historical things that were going on there at the time. It's a young woman who's working at the Montreal Star, which I went on to work at myself. I worked there not in 68. I was still in high school, but in the 70s I worked there. And there's a group of rock stars, famous rock stars that are American rock stars that have rented a cottage, and they're spending the summer, and she's determined to get an interview with them. And she drives up, and I won't tell you anymore. So it's
okay.
In the rural area.
Your setting is wonderful, by the way. 1968 Montreal at the Montreal Star. I love your setting, and it'll be really intriguing to see what you've got. I can't wait to receive it.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. Now I want to hear about your latest, and then we're going to talk about your whole series afterwards. But first, tell
Okay.
me, we'll go backwards. Tell me about your latest first. What is it called?
Okay, my latest, which I've just finished writing, and Ed is editing, and then there'll be some other editing that's done to it as well. But that is the fourth Pat Tierney novel, and it is called Uncharted Waters, and it's a metaphor because Pat in this book, she's a 40-something financial planner, and she decides to buy her own practice. She's working for a large investment firm, and she wants to be her own boss. So and instead of starting from scratch, she buys an existing practice from a person who's retiring, which is what they do in that industry. And she then all hell breaks loose. She has to go into debt, of course, to buy the practice. She is a single mom. She's a widow. She's got 3 children, and she has to earn a living. And the big problem is whether the clients whether she can retain the clients. When you buy a practice, they don't necessarily want to stay with you. She's a woman. They were working with a man before. Perhaps they want to work with another man. You'd have no idea. So she's terrified that she spent all this money, and whether she'll retain the clients. But then other terrible things happen in the course of the book. So Uncharted Waters is a metaphor. There's no water or lake or river or ocean in the book.
Unlike 2 of your other books.
Yeah, I'll talk about the other books in a second. But so it's a metaphor. It's just she's getting into starting a journey that she does not know where she's going, where it's going to lead. So there's no map. The waters have been uncharted. And
that's a wonderful theme for 2020, because with everything we're going through, and we've talked about this before, and I've told you my theory that every turn of a decade, every 0 year, is the start of something new for me. Being an Aries, it's the start of something new. And I was born in 1960. I have no concerns about ageism. I think age is a wonderful thing to be proud of. You know, you've earned your right to brag about your age. But every 0 year is the start of something, in my opinion. And I think Uncharted Waters coming out in 2020 is perfect, because by the time it comes out in September, we're going to be so ready for new beginnings.
Right. Yeah. Yes. The other books, they all have watery titles. So that was when I was looking for a title. I wanted a water title, but I also wanted to reflect what was going on in the book. And so this, I think, combines the 2. But the series all has water titles. The first one, I'm going to hold it up. Safe Harbor.
Please.
Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor. Now that's a metaphor too. There is Safe Harbor is actually in the book. It's a home for refugees to Canada, and also it stands for Pat has had a safe harbor for a while, and she's launching out into new directions in the book. The next one is Blackwater, and that is set in cottage country.
Up a little higher, Rosemary. Up a little higher. There we go. We can see it now.
Ontario cottage country, and that is also stands for. Well, they do go snowmobiling on the lakes in March, and there's always the danger of black water. But Blackwater also stands for all sorts of hidden evil in that beautiful community. And the third one is Raven Lake. Now, and that actually is set on a lake called Raven Lake in the book. And there's a real lake, Raven Lake, up in the Albertan Islands, probably many lakes throughout North America called Raven Lake, but I like the name, so I just.
The covers are stunning. They're just stunning covers, and and they're beautiful titles.
Donna Carrick did this.
Yes, Sarah did that one. That's right.
That's right. And she's going to do my my upcoming one as well. I'm all excited about that.
Yes, yes. So hopefully she can retain that beautiful theme and imagery, you know.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous. It's a gorgeous series. And Pat Tierney is a very likable character.
Oh,
I know you said she's mid-40s and she's a financial planner. What else can you tell us about her in her personal life?
she's a widow for about 4 years. Her husband died, and her personal life. Well, she's very busy with her family and her work and her. She's a perfectionist. She's a bit of a worrier. She worries about everything, and
Mhm.
like myself. And,
Mhm.
but she's definitely not me. She's a blonde, and I don't have any children, and she has a family. And I'm not a financial planner. A lot of people ask me if Pat Tierney's based on me. She certainly isn't. She's a much nicer person than I am.
Oh, I
And
doubt that. I'm looking at your smiling face, and you don't look like a worrier, but I know you are.
yeah, I'm definitely aware. That's the one thing we have in common. I'm not a financial planner either. I was a journalist for all my working life. And in the latter, perhaps 15, 20 years of my journalism career, I specialized in personal finance and small businesses and
So
that.
that's where the knowledge and the research comes from.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. For instance, in this book, she's buying a business, and this is something that I've written about a lot about people in the industry, what they have to look
Now,
for.
your Pat Tierney stories have been shortlisted for awards, haven't they? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I had the very first one. There was one that
Was it the
basically
Sweetheart Scamster?
That's a short story. There was one that was the very first Crime Writers of Canada has every year they have a wonderful award called the
Unhanged Arthur.
Yeah. So in 2007, 13 years ago, my very first Pat Tierney novel was shortlisted as a finalist for that. And that one, it's in the drawer. I started the series with the Safe Harbor book, which is actually number 2. And that first book was, I guess, a prequel of everything that happened. I was warming up, learning my craft.
Yes, yes. Well, this is true with a lot of authors. And don't be discouraged if your first novel isn't what you hope it would be. Put it in the drawer. Learn from it. Maybe one day you'll dust it off and fix it up as a prequel.
Take pieces from it.
Yes, exactly. Cannibalized. We do that a lot.
Yes.
Refurbishing, it's called.
Yes. And so the first one, Safe Harbor, actually, the one that actually was published, that was shortlisted for a British award called the Debut Dagger, and that is much like the Canadian Unhanged Arthur. It's a novel that is a first novel that has not yet been published yet. Has to be your first novel. You can have written other types of books, but first novel. And so that was in 2010. And a lot of Canadians have applied for that, and many of them have become finalists. Oh, and Louise Penny is the famous one.
So you share that with Louise Penny. Wow.
I do. I'm so
Prestigious,
proud
right?
to share with.
Well, she shares that with you. Yes.
Yeah.
Very prestigious. If anybody's not familiar with the Debut Dagger, look it up, because it's quite a prestigious award. And to be shortlisted for that, it really does speak well of your work. But I was also thinking of your short stories, because I believe the Sweetheart Scamster was nominated.
The Sweetheart Scamster is a short story, not a novel, but it does feature the Pat Tierney character, and it was in the Mesdames of Mayhem's very first anthology called
13,
which came out, of course, in 2013. And that one was a finalist for an American award, the Derringer Award.
Yes.
And
Yes, yes, I remember that. And that was a terrific story. If you're not familiar with the Mesdames of Mayhem series of anthologies, look them up. They start with 13 by the Mesdames of Mayhem. And Rosemary McCracken's story, The Sweetheart Scamster, again, was nominated for a Derringer Award in the US. And that's another prestigious award in the crime industry. So the crime industry, I love that. The crime writing. Let me qualify the crime writing industry.
Right.
we may love our crime, but only on the page, right, Rosemary?
That's right. Well, we can write about our fantasies.
Exactly, and catch all those bad guys, as Sylvia likes to say.
Yeah.
In our minds. Now, tell me a little bit about your writing process. And do you write every single day, for example?
I wish I could. I write well in the morning, not early morning. I'm not an early morning person, but from say about 11 till 1:30, and then a break, and then maybe a bit in the late afternoon. But I can't write in the evening at all. And but I would like to, but unfortunately life gets in the way. So that's my best time in the morning. I'm fresh, my mind is fresh, and but unfortunately we have other things to do. Things happen that you have.
Yes, exactly.
You have whatever crises around the house, and you have to attend to them. So I don't, if I can't write one day, I don't let myself feel guilty about it. The next day. But I will never try after 8 at night. It just doesn't work for me.
No,
but
it doesn't work for me either. No, I'm definitely a morning person, and I tend to be an early morning person.
An early morning person.
Yes.
That's great.
I'm passing out in front of the TV by a certain time in the evening.
Yeah.
Fitbit keeps telling me you need more sleep. Fitbit keeps telling me, you need more sleep. 5 is not cutting it.
The thing is, though, that you have to do what works for you. Just find out what works for you. Just like writers groups, some people thrive on them. I have a good one, but other people, they don't work for them. So you can't force yourself in anything creative like this. We have to find our whatever what works for us.
Yes, I always recommend that authors try for a writing group. Try to get into a writing group because I do think. Sorry.
Are you in one, Donna? Do you have a writers group?
I still belong to. I still sort of loosely belong at large to one that we don't really meet anymore. So. But then I'm not as prolific as you right at the moment either. I'm really been focusing on other aspects.
You have other things you're doing.
Crime writing industry. But definitely I saw a lot of value in it when I was. And it's particularly important, I think, when you're new at it.
Yes.
Because you get feedback that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been in my current one for about 22 years. I can't remember exactly when I joined, if it's 21 or 22 or 23 years, but somewhere around then. And it's terrific. There's 6 of us, and over those 20 some years, we've had 2 people leave and 2 people come in. So there's 4 people that have been there with me from the start, and it was going before I joined as well. It wasn't my first. I belonged to a couple before that, and they disbanded just really because of numbers. We didn't have enough people, and if one person leaves, if you have a group of 4, if one person leaves, you have 3. That's not, and then
not enough. But you've had a very stable group, very low turnover, and that speaks highly too. And the other thing I know, because I know your group. Yes, I'm very lucky to know them all personally and call them all friends. And the thing is, you grow professionally, you grow creatively and professionally together. And they're a very accomplished group. And when you look around and you see that you are one among, it's got to be a good pat on the back for you.
Yes, And I work well with them because of deadlines. being
Yeah.
a journalist, we always had deadlines. I worked on a daily newspaper for a long, long time. So we generally had a deadline every day. We had by 6 o'clock at night, you had to have that article in. And even when I worked on weeklies, you'd still have deadlines, and they're sacrosanct. You can't, you can't miss the deadline, or you don't get paid.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a big hole in the newspaper, and everything. Things are not. Your bosses are not happy, so you have to make that deadline. So we meet once a month with the writers group, and we have to, we about 4 days before we meet, we email our pages into everybody in the group so they have a chance to look at them. And you can often, sometimes you have to miss, but I rarely miss. There's sometimes people, they attend the meeting, but they didn't write that month because things happen in their families and whatever, and perhaps they're on the editing stage in a book and they can't write. But for me, missing means that there's one opportunity you've missed for people to look at your book and to give you some very good feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
sometimes
just
writers.
so important.
Sorry?
It's just so important to get that.
Sometimes writers groups don't work for you, and I teach a course at George Brown College, and I tell the students, I encourage them in the class to form a writers group afterwards. But I say, if you find a particular group is not working for you, get out, because sometimes you have some very critical people in there, especially if you're a new writer.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, Rosemarie, that if you are new, you don't expect your work to be brilliant, but you still don't deserve or warrant really harsh criticism. And if a group or a person is being far too critical and damaging your sense of creativity and your sense of value, then you've got to get out. You've got to move on.
Yeah, it has to be constructive criticism.
Yes.
You have to maybe a suggestion of what you can do to make it a little bit better.
That's right. Exactly. But, it's like everything else. There are all kinds of people everywhere. And when you do find the great group, it's a good fit and it works well.
Yeah.
And other than getting into a good group or not getting into a group, is there any other tip that you can pass on to new writers out there in particular?
Well, new writers, there are a lot of courses being given at community colleges. Here in Toronto, where you and I live, Donna, we're so blessed. There's colleges, and there's workshops, and libraries give. Public libraries often give workshops as well. There's a lot you can plug into, but I would say take a course, and at the end of the course, that's how I got into my first writers group. Often the class decides that they like working with each other so much that they meet afterwards, and that's how writers groups are formed, and you know who you're getting involved with. Because you've read.
You've already studied with them, yes.
Exactly. So it's a good way to find a writers group, but it's also a good way if you're starting off. There are mystery writing courses. There's romance writing courses. There's at George Brown. There's a science fiction writing course, memoir writing. So whatever you like, it's out there, and you get a little bit of instruction on. Generally, they're 12 weeks. And once a week in the evening, and the little bit of instruction of what the norms of that genre are, which is helpful. And there's a lot of good books out there in libraries, a lot of good books in Chapters Indigo and bookstores that you can.
Learning some of the technical skills is something that we often don't talk enough about it. I mean, it's a creative process and it is a business, but we don't really talk about the technical aspects as much as we should. And it is important, if you value your craft, to really try to pick up as much and polish up as much of the technical skills as you can. And courses are a great way to do that. Workshops,
And your public library probably has some interesting things going on there as well. Librarians are a writer's best friend.
Yes.
They talk about your book to. They talk up your book to the people that come into and use the library, and they love books. They love reading. of course. And they often organize workshops, and they bring writers in to give little talks, and in the evening generally these things are all free of charge at a library, whereas a college will charge you tuition to take the course. But so check out your public library and find out what's going on there. They generally print out little booklets, upcoming calendar booklets of what's coming up in the next
Now, you
month.
might have to do a lot of this online until the current pandemic situation is over, but that shouldn't stop you from researching and finding out what you want to do and where you'd like to go with it if you're a new writer. And for readers, I really encourage you to look up Rosemary McCracken and her wonderful Pat Tierney series, Blackwater.
Safe Harbor.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Safe Harbor's the first one. Safe Harbor.
Safe Harbor. I knew I was missing one.
Blackwater.
Safe Harbor, Blackwater, Raven Lake, and in September, look for Uncharted Waters.
Yes, a watery title, a watery series.
A watery theme by Rosemary McCracken.
And
they are wonderful books. You're going to enjoy them. They're highly skilled. And you're going to like the Pat Tierney character. She really is an every woman. And I just enjoy her a lot.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome. It was wonderful to see you, Rosemary. Thank you so much for coming on Dead to Rights. And
thank you for having me.
And please thank Ed for dropping in. It was a pleasure to see him as well.
Okay. Have a lovely day, Donna.
You too.
I want to thank Rosemary McCracken for joining us today on Dead to Rights. We've really enjoyed speaking with her about her work and about her views on crime genre industry in general. So if you want to find more about her work, you can look her up at her website or on social media. And her titles again are Safe Harbor, Blackwater, Raven Lake, and soon to be released in 2020 will be Uncharted Waters. And that's Rosemary McCracken. Thank you very much. Thanks also to Ted Carrick, who produced and composed and created and performed our theme song, Eyes of Gold. I always get a big kick out of playing it. So be sure to join us next week when we'll be speaking with Caro Souls. And Caro has a wonderful series of Mercurian mysteries. Please look her up. It's SOLES. And we'll see you next week.
COVID-19, better known as coronavirus, has spread throughout the world. Symptoms of this respiratory disease may include fever, cough, and shortness of breath. These symptoms may show up 2 to 14 days after exposure. If you are experiencing these symptoms and have come into contact or are in an area with an ongoing outbreak, please call a hotline and/or consult with a physician. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Thank you.
A dusty road, man alone. His vital signs go on hold. And I don't know what you've been told, but the years have turned my eyes gold. And I told you what you told me, we'd never be in the same boat for free. Yet it rides, let it ride.